you're likely going to face some sort of resistance. We want to embrace this resistance because so commonly, here's how it will get talked about most of the time in the health and wellness field. Like, do this thing, do yoga, do qigong, do breathing practices with this expectation, like that's easy, like I can say for me now, it's pretty easy, but that's taken like 20 years of practice for me to cultivate that. I don't think that it needs to take that long for someone when when they know what they're doing, but I've had a lot of trial and error and made a lot of mistakes and all sorts of different things. But to expect that you would go into a practice, meditation is another example, and just to be able to switch into it straight away is an unrealistic expectation. And it's one thing that's going to keep you in a perpetual state of dysregulation, I find, because you put this external pressure upon yourself of like, oh, I should be able to calm my mind and I should be able to breathe deeper and I should be able to move this way and da, 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 da. Before you even get started, there's like this layer of pressure and stress. So let's talk about the resistance that can come up and how we can go about embracing it. I'll hand over to you, Marcus.
Yeah, and then often you think, or I thought, or people I work with think, oh, I'm too lazy. I don't get the thing done. I only should those practices and everything would be good. And this is again very stressful for your nervous system because you go against yourself when you think you're wrong and you're, I don't know, in German we call it Schweinehund. It's like a combination of pig and dog. Like, oh, I just have to overcome my Schweinehund, and also, oh no, that's not a thing. It's a natural reaction. It's not about trying all the time to push against it and just take yourself here and oh, just do it. Because in this matter, it's just a matter of time that you will naturally stop it because you can't do it and it will just harm you and cause more tension and more pain. So it's really to become aware of that this resistance is a natural consequence of what you have experienced over the last weeks, months, years, or whatever.
Yeah.
And just to be with this resistance can be the first step of practice. Just
Yeah.
to become aware of it's okay that I'm not in the mood to do X, Y, Z. And just being with that can be a great start.
Yeah.
Because in this stage, in this moment, you are embracing what's here, and you're not telling yourself that this is wrong or that you are wrong. And now you have a good start to go from there. And even this realization can be the practice for one day, for example, and then just slowly go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that in and of itself is actually a very regulating process. Even before you start to do really anything, you just become aware of the resistance to connecting with your body. We acknowledge that, hey, my body's been through a lot of things. It has remembered at a physiological level every experience that I've gone through from the moment that I was like a little seed in my mother's tummy. We we start receiving and picking up information from that level all the way through birth, all the way through childhood, all the way into adulthood. So the notion of just connecting with the body is it's actually quite a big thing, because we then start to process and come to terms with everything that we have gone through consciously and unconsciously. It's all there. It's all held within the body. It's a wonderful vehicle of intelligence and wisdom, and we can really get to know who we are by sustaining ourselves to observe all of that.
Yeah.
And rather than I see this all the time when resistance comes up, and I've experienced it myself. You feel that resistance, and then you instantly try and find some sort of coping mechanism to feel better.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone and scroll. It's like, I'll get a dopamine hit. This can all happen very reflexively, or can lead into, I'll just like do something that feels better. that I know isn't actually good for me, that my intent was to connect with my body or to support my health, and then I distract myself from that. And often what we are distracting ourselves from is those experiences that are unintegrated. And it doesn't mean that we need to necessarily go through some trauma release process. It's often just seeing and acknowledging that that is there and that we survived and that we are ready to open up and reconnect back to this present moment in the body.
Yeah. Otherwise, it will get very chaotic, and you have an emotional response, and you create another emotion and lay that over that. And you just stack up layer by layer, and then it's no wonder that things get worse. It's just a wild mixture of anything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really to become aware of what's there, and that's it.
Yeah.
And this is also not easy. What Benny and I are talking about here, it's not like that you will do this in the next second and feel like, oh yeah, I can understand what those guys are talking about. It took us many years to realize that. So don't put the pressure against yourself now that the only thing is to cognitively tell yourself that it's okay. It's 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 a bit deeper than that. It's really to become aware of and then feeling it's okay. But
Yeah.
it's not difficult, but it's not that easy, it sounds like here.
Yeah, yeah. And a simple way to get started with this is really just to notice when the resistance comes up and
Yeah.
to allow yourself a little bit longer to see it.
Yes.
This is the key thing, to then see the effect of it. Because our thoughts, our breath, our our mind, our body, they're all inherently linked. What we get is an opportunity when we start to see that resistance, we see the effects that it has on the body, we feel maybe that chaos or that feeling or that intensity, and allow ourselves to be with it. All of a sudden, like you were saying before, Marcus, where we have the thought or the emotion or the sensation and then the reaction to it, and
Yeah.
then cascade of that, we can start to realize, oh, I am sitting in the middle of all of that, and I have power on where my attention goes. And then that creates a feedback loop that informs back into my body. And the moment you start to realize that, you then start to have this very conscious like level of empowerment to then how you direct your focus, how you direct your energy, how do you direct your thoughts rather than believing every single thought and feeling that comes up as true or
Yes.
denying it and avoiding it. So that's one of the key things when you feel that resistance, we see the resistance, see what that's about. And we develop a lot of self-compassion in this, I find, of going, yes, I've been through a lot of things. My body has carried a lot, and I'm scared of feeling, of just feeling. Yeah, and that is okay to admit.
Yeah. And also maybe often we are scared from the thoughts coming up, and also that is okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's a funny thing. Like, there's a bit of a paradox here in that we can feel very out of control in this body because we don't have control over everything. And so that it can feel like when things have been going on for a long time or we've been dysregulated for a long time, that like our body is chaotic and living in it is uncomfortable. And we don't feel like we have any power and authority or control over that experience. But the flip side of it is while we don't have control over all the autonomic functions of the body, we do have control over the way we perceive it, the relationship that we have with it, and what we focus on continually. And then that then informs back those autonomic functions. So it's an interesting conundrum that we find ourselves in of I don't have control over the speed of my heart rate, but the things that I focus on and the things that I do will influence my heart rate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it can be really helpful to, when you connect with the body, you feel that resistance, you might feel a bit out of control, but then realize you do have power and control over what you focus on, how you perceive what you are focusing on, and the relationship that you have with it. And often, to shift the pattern, all we have to do is shift the relationship with the pattern.